Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You have to. It makes sense because everyone's looking for something, right? And if I think about it in a business sense, and I'm not saying that relationships should be organized in a business way, but it's a good way to understand it. That if I want to meet somebody who is in a certain place or position in business, I have to create something that they're interested in. I have to bring value to them, and then they will want to meet me. Because if I want to meet them, I'm just like everybody else. I'm not special. But if they want to meet me, then I bring some value. And with this new business project that I've been working on, something clicked last week, and the CEO of one of maybe the top 20 companies in this region contacted me, and
Wow.
and we we agreed to meet. And this is this is not me going, I want to meet with you, I want to meet with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Because I've created something that resonates with them as valuable, and they're interested in it the same way that in a relationship, that people, you have to realize what is valuable to the other people. You have to become the person that they're interested in. You have to become them.
Mm.
Yeah, become what they understand, what they know. You have to communicate to them in their language, not your language. A simple thing, but really really important. Like I worked on. It's a little thing that I've never shared with anybody before. I worked on analogies for 10 to 15 years. The analogy is explaining something to a person in a way that they understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with me and you, it's me learning what interests you and putting it into your language, in your experiences, in your way. Like I have one client who's a businessman who plays badminton. It's his hobby in his
Mm-hmm.
free time. He doesn't have much free time, but when he does, he plays badminton. So I'm always putting everything in the context of badminton when
Badminton.
I talk to him, because he understands that.
Mm-hmm.
And the analogy is breaking the complex situation down into
Just
in not
simpler and
yeah not expressing or expressing my experience, but in your terms, in a way that you understand. Not telling you what happened to me, but explaining to you how it could happen to you where you are with what you're doing. And and that's really important in communication. And you like talking to children.
in their level, in their understanding
And
with their
they're
language.
yeah, but not always, because children grow up faster when they're challenged and around more adults than they do when they're around. There's a lot of arrested development, that children don't grow when they're surrounded only by people the same age with the same experience. It's a really slow process, and all the studies show that when you mix the age ranges together, it's much more beneficial for the students. So it's realizing that to get the story across to somebody, you have to relate it to something which is real. And I, I've spent 10 to 15 years doing a lot with analogy. Just how do I explain this message in that way? Like I said to you with the cooking before. Do you remember about the relationships and how being in a relationship is, when you're alone you cook for yourself, but when you're in a relationship you cook for somebody else. Yeah, and it is that the cooking gets the message across. If you try to explain it exactly as it is, it's really complex for people to understand. But if you explain it through cooking, and I think it's something that everybody understands. Or I use sports analogies, or talk about try to talk about the complexities of life, and people will find that a bit abstract. But you talk about a game of football and the rules of the game, and what happens if you don't follow the rules of the game, and what happens when you're in the game, the difference between being in the game and being outside of the game and observing what is happening. That is really, really, really important in terms of communication. Always have some analogy for what is happening and going on. And it also helps communicating with my children in that way as well, trying to explain things in terms of Lego figures, like this Lego figure and this Lego figure, and little things like that. And anyone who ever thinks they can't improve just needs to spend more time with kids, because the kids will show them how they need to improve. Like my youngest daughter said to my father yesterday when he visited, she said, you have to stop smoking because you'll live longer. And she's only 4, right? Or my other daughter...
The honesty of the children, you can't stop it. And what do you do? Like, the children, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, just let them let them be free. And it's like, I don't fear the future, because I've seen how good children are just naturally.
Mm-hmm.
The children only get fucked up because they're around adults who are fucked up, right? That's the only way it happens. And also there's a play area across the road from us, and a woman was walking her dog through it, and my daughter, who's 7, said, there's a sign over there that says you can't take your dog in here.
What did the woman say?
Well, she couldn't say anything. She said, "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry."
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure the children don't have a fear to communicate what is right to people, with an understanding that what's right is different for different people as well. And I think a lot of adults are like, snails a little bit, right? They got their little house on their back, and they'll go inside if anything threatening comes around, they'll go back inside.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't want to speak about it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's embrace conflict, but don't make conflict the aim. Right? Embrace it. It's embrace the difference. Oh, you like that? That's interesting. Move on. Right? It's okay. Oh, you don't like that? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Or explore it more. Like, find out why people don't like it. Like, I had this great conversation last week with this with a group of business people, where I was talking to one person and we agreed to do some work together, and I said, why did you choose to work with me? And he said, well, we said it was a no-brainer. He said it was obvious, it was a good idea, right? It's just like, it was obvious. So obvious. And I said, that's interesting, because you're like one of 20 people, and the other 19 people decided not to do it. Yeah. In fact, more than that. And this guy's like, yeah, that's a bit strange, isn't it? That they could have a great benefit from working with you, but they choose not to do that. And I said, it's more than that. So they actively avoid it. There's something that I could give them for free that would benefit their business a lot, and they actively choose to not have it.
Yeah.
They'd rather pay for something that doesn't benefit their business than get something for free that does. That's the world that we live in. It's wild. It's wild, and so that's just an example of the box thinking that we're all guilty of, right? It's very interesting, and all that my work is to do is to try to wake up a new thought process within people's minds, which is a long way of me answering your earlier question of about if conversation takes different directions, right? Because you never know what that spark is quite going to be, right? You put a group of people in a room, you never know quite how everything's going to work out, right? So you never know quite where it's like you know that you'll solve the problem eventually, but you're not quite sure at which point everything will click. Yeah, you have to be those who can adapt have a future. Those who can adapt have a future. Those who can integrate, transform, change, and your experience of different cultures and different places is good in that respect. Those who can adapt have a future. Those who can't end up like your parents, fixed.
Yeah.
Right? All progress requires some level of flexibility. Yeah, there's not any big business that hasn't made horrible mistakes going in one direction and had to change, pivot, as we say, and go in another direction. And that's what we need to do in life a lot of the time. We just gotta keep our options open, and hopefully, if we do, everything will work out positively.
Right.
Hopefully.